Yes. So shall we start? So list.java using generics, right? Oh, what is this? They have given some methods here. Right, okay, fine. So why generics in the sense I've told you in the morning. Something like if you want to create an entity for integers, you have to write it. If you want to create an entity for strings, you have to write it. If you want to create an entity for employee or an animal, you have to create it. Instead of creating multiple entities like this with the same behavior in the sense for what are the methods that you develop for list entity with integers. Okay, of course you also have to do the same for all the rest of the uh, what do you call types which has the same behavior. So instead you can use a generics there at that point of time. Okay, so generics, uh, there are different symbols that we have seen. One is e, element. The other one is k, key. V, value. So this k and v used for especially for dictionaries or hash tables. We'll call it as hash tables. Okay, and the other one is T, type. Okay, so you can use vice versa like E or T, but it's better you use E for listed. It is to handle the operations or to handle the data especially. Okay, not operations, to handle the data. So the way that you have to write generics is, so you just look at here. The goal for the list is to store items. However, how are we going to store the items in the list? So an array would be good, right? So when we do not what we are going to have in the list, we need, of course, these all comments are quite natural, I think so. But one comment is that we need to create a generic list to store all the items. That is a new comment over here, I think so, right? So here E is a type parameter and it will be replaced with actual type when the object got created. So it is something like list integer list equals to new list of unknown. Yes or no? So at the time you're specifying whether it is an integer or a string or something else, right? Yes or no? Right. So that's what. So in order to define the generics, this is the way that you have to define. Public class list followed by E. So E is an element there. Okay. So here also the same. Earlier for integer list, what you have done? Int array with the name list. So instead of int array or instead of string array or instead of student array, it's better you specify e array list, which holds the element types. But the element type is going to be defined at the time of object creation, not now, not during the class definition or something else. Okay. So private int size. Why I'm not taking size as e here? Because we already know that size relates to the number of elements in the list. So it can be of integers or it can be of strings, irrespective. But size refers to the number of elements. So number in the sense, it's by default we know that it's an integer. So we have to define it as integer. Okay. So now this is a constructor. Which is used to create an element array, right? So returns nothing. Yes or no? Returns nothing. Okay. So this is the way of this is the way that you have to create an what do you call element list. So list equals to you have to say new object of 10. So new object of 10 in the sense 10 is a size, default size that you're trying to use it. So why you're saying object there? Because element, it's an abstract type. Element, it's an abstract type. We don't know what that element is going to be. So for all the types in Java, almost all the types are going to be inherited from object. So it's better you say object. And then typecast it to E. Say for example, when you're creating an object which is of type integer, so it automatically converts to integer type. If it is an float, it converts to float. If it is an animal, it converts to animal. Okay, because you're typecasting it here. Yes or no? Got it or not? So that's all about. So size by default is assigned to 0. Object is a base class for all the classes. That's what the comment is given. Okay. Okay. Next, overloaded constructor. Of course, it is also going to be the same, but with a different parameter. This is going to be the this is an overloaded constructor which takes the initial capacity to create an array, to create a generic array. Okay, yes or no? So instead, earlier we said it is something like 10. Now we are saying that it is something like a parameter. Of course, for parameter we are going to pass some value. It's something like an integer. So it is going to be define the size of the array. Okay, nothing more, right? Now, public void add of e item. So in order to define the methods for add for the list entity which contains integers, what you are trying to do there? Integer item, right? So here, if it is a string, if the list is a string type, so you have to say string. If a list is a vehicle type, you have to specify vehicle. So instead, we have to say e. Now because we are trying to create a generic array, so you have to say e. Because the item is of type that we don't know here for the timing, because we are adding item to the list array. We are adding item to the list array, and we don't know the type of the item. And clearly, we are saying that it's a generic item. So define it as e. Define it as e. And list of size plus plus equals to item. This is quite natural. Yes or no? But here, what you have to do, you have to check for size. If size equals to list dot length, then what you have to do? Go for resize. Just call the resize method. Okay. Now what I have to, where is that resize method? Do we have? No, not there. So it's better we write it on our own. So is the resize method a private or a public? Private method. So is it going to be written something? No, because it's a nothing required to return from that method. So what should it say here? List equals to arrays dot copy of list comma size into 2. That's what you're trying to say, right? And that's it. Nothing more required. So at the top you have to import java.util. So already there, so not required. So resize is done. So is the addition add method done by adding an element to the list, generic list. Now this is a method which is used for add all the items to the generic list. So is it going to be an integer array? No. Is it going to be a string array? No. The parameter that is passing to the add all method, I mean to say. So what the type should be? Generic type. So as we are saying add all, the method says itself is nothing but an add all. So it takes multiple parameters. Multiple parameters in the sense it's waste of passing multiple parameters. So instead you can keep it as an array and pass it to the method. So this is an array of items. So what should do? So simply call I equals to 0, I less than items dot size, items dot length I plus plus. Add of items of I. Why don't we write like something? Why we are not writing like this? Say for example, this one, and list of size plus plus equals to what do you call items of size or items of I,
Anyway,
and this should be right. Why we are not doing like this?
because anyway the same functionality we have written in add, so we can
Yeah,
use
anyways the
that.
functionality has been written in add method, so why it's not required for you to take care of it here again. And not only that, during the for loop we don't know the size is the size how much is going to be grown, how much is going to grow, right? It grows based on the item's length, yes or no? And we don't know how much space is there in the list. List in the sense this one,
This here.
yes or no? The leftover space that we don't know, we have to calculate it again. So don't take that much of risk. Pass it to the add method, and add method will take care of it. Whether the size is there, or whether the size is equals to the list dot length or not, or something else. That's what I also discussed the same yesterday. So ignore it. So this is an important thing, of course, reusability of the methods, right? Yeah. So what is the next one? Public int size. So nothing. Adds all the elements to the end of the list from the item array. Antena? Parameter ఏంటి? Items to be added to the list ADT. Say for example, okay na? ADT. Okay. Got it? So what is the next one? Size as usual. There is no change in the size method because we know we would like to know what is the size of the list. So simply return it. And of course, what is the return type should be? Int only. Why I can't make it as E? Why should not I change this? Size is always an integer, so it's not like something like a string or something else, right? So take it as an int, right? Okay, what is the next one? Remove of int index. So what they'll give you an index and you have to process it. The same story, nothing. Okay, change. So int I equals to index or size size, I think so. I greater than index I minus minus. So what you have to say, list of I equals to list of I minus 1, and at the end you have to say list of I equals to list of. Now you have removed an element at a particular index. Now what you have to fill that position, not lift. Hold on. This is size, I think, right? Null. Why you are saying null? Why you are saying null?
We can't keep
Yeah, for strings you can't give 0. But for integers can you give null? Because now each and every element will be treated as an object inside the list entity. Because we are saying E, generic type, right? So generics always takes nulls. Okay, that's the story behind. So of course, so see here in the constructor what we are trying to do, how we are creating the array, on what basis we are creating the array. New object of, right? So object takes null by default. Don't worry whether it is an integer. Integer in the sense, say for example, if you take whenever you're creating an object for list entity, now list int list equals to new list of. So at the time you're saying it's not int, it's integer, right? So integer is a wrapper class available in Java API. So it's an object. Integer is an object there. Float is an object. Character is an object. It's not like primitive types. I'm not talking about it. Int, a small f float, or a small c char, a small boolean, small b boolean, etc. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the wrapper classes. Okay. And Java provides a very good feature called auto boxing and auto unboxing. So primitive type int automatically converts to integer. Yeah, char by default converts to character, and character by default converts to char, vice versa. So converting from primitive to wrapper class is nothing but auto boxing, and converting from what do you call wrapper class to primitive is going to be an auto unboxing. So that supports by default. So you don't worry about it. Okay. Any question on this? No. So here, as you are making it as an object, so by default it takes as null when you remove an element. Yes or no? So is it list of size equals null or something else? List of size or list of index or something else? List of index. Why list of index?
List of the size.
List of size only, right? So the last element, right?
Last element should be
Last element or last but one element should be null. Size minus one, I think. Check once. Yesterday we have taken some example, right? Yes, sir. Hemant and Anu here. Say what are the elements in the list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 10, 0, 0. Say for example, okay? Yes or no? Now I would like to remove 5. Now what happens? The size becomes size minus 1 only, right? Right, perfect. Because of course, when I remove 5, now what is the size of the array? 4. So list of size is? So list of 4 equals to null. So you have to keep null at 4th position, right? No, I think so. List of size only, I think so. List of size only. I'm sorry. Because see, what happens actually if you see observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Now whenever I want to remove 5, what happens to the list? Equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it becomes 6, and this will be 6, and the rest of them are going to be. Yes or no? The 6 will be moved to here. The item has been moved, but you are not making anything with this item. So at that position you have to keep it as null. So make it as 0.
Fifth position we have to keep.
That's why I am saying list of size.
Size minus 1.
Why size minus 1 again?
Size is 1, 0, 1, 2,
No,
4.
this is the position after you remove the element 5 and after moving all the elements to the left.
But after removing, we are not. After
1, 2, 3,
deciding
4,
the
5,
null value,
6.
then we are putting size minus minus also. Still the size will be 6.
I'm not reducing the size minus, right?
Then it will be 6 at the initial.
That's what I'm saying. So list of size equals to null.
Size minus 1.
Look at clearly. You have removed 5. You have removed 5. So what happens there? 6 is moved to the 5th position. That's fine now. And done. Nothing more to move to the left. Yes or no? Now the before executing this statement, what are the values in the list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 6. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir.
Prasad, Gautam. Am I right or wrong? Yes. So where you have to keep null now? At the last. At the last in the sense? The size index. At the size index. Keep null over there. Okay. Now what are the elements in the array? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in the sense size minus 1, right? Endukani? I'm getting confused. So it should be size minus 1 only. Because 6 index is here, right? Not this one. But I have to keep here 0. Indices you have to check. Not the elements. Yes or no? Okay. Check clearly later. Okay. And done with the remove. Any other questions here? No. So I need to handle the exceptions also, right? If index less than size. Oh, greater than 0, na? Greater than 0. or index less than, or sorry, index is less than 0 and sorry, or index is greater than or equals to size. Then what happens? You have to say println
Invalid position.
invalid position exception, huh? Invalid
Position exception.
position exception, and done. Do you need to handle any more? And say return. Don't do anything. Just return it. Don't do anything with it. Okay. And where else I have to handle any indices earlier? No, right? And that's it. Okay. Now remove is done. What is the next one? Get off index. Get off index. Return list of index. Is that done? No, you have to check the same condition. If index is less than 0 or index is greater than equals to size, then what do you have to say? Println. Oh, return null. That's it, right? Return null. Otherwise, list of index. That's it. Done. Get off item. Get off element at a particular index. What is the next one? String to string. So initially, so what I will say is if if size equals to 0, what I have to say? Return this one. Else, I would like to write a string buffer now. String buffer is b equals to new string buffer of. Okay. So I want to have a open parenthesis, right? Now for int I equals to 0, I less than size I plus plus, and then sb dot append of list of I. Yes or no? This should be -1. And sb dot append of list of I. List of size -1. The last element. Yes or no? Now sb dot, okay, not required here. Here only you can specify it. Plus all you have to get is something like comma based, comma separated values, and at the end close the square bracket, and at the end return it sb dot toString, and that's it, done. Any other things left over here? Any exceptions that I have to handle other than this? No, right?
No, if the size is equal to
If the size equals to 0, returns nothing.
nothing.
Else, take all the elements, give it in the list format, and then send it.
Size spelling is wrong.
Oh, right. You're right. Size. SIZE, right? Any other things that I have to handle? That's it. We'll see. The next one is the contains. Now contains. What do you mean by contains? Now you have to check for an element, right? Element is of type. It can be decided at the time of object creation. So for the timing, we will call it as E. Okay. So E item. Now, so what contains actually have to return?
True or false?
Either true or false. If the item is there in the list, you have to return true. Otherwise, false. So how do we do that?
Return index of item.
We already have index of method. Better call the index of method. Did we write the code?
Next is index of methods.
Oh, next is the index of method. So what we'll do is first we'll write the index of method and then write the contains method. That will be easy. Yes or no? So what index of method has to do? Returns the index of the first occurrence of the specified element in the list. If there is an occurrence, return it. Otherwise, return -1. So what actually it has to return? Index of that element, not the element. So index is also always going to be integer type. And what is the parameter for index of what you are trying to search for? Item is nothing but an element, is nothing but something like an object, right? So now, how you're going to check? So iterate through the entire list and check for the first occurrence. If you have that occurrence, return it. Okay. So if item dot equals of list of I, then return I, else return -1. Okay. If you find an element, return it. Return the index. Otherwise, return -1 and close. That's it. And of course, in the contains, of course, you're checking for what index of actually does. It is trying to find the first occurrence. Contains also trying to find the occurrence only, right? If the occurrence is there, what you have to try to return? A boolean value. It can be either true or false. It depends. It depends in the sense, if the element is there, you have to return true. Otherwise, false. So what I have to do? Return index of item should be equals to, or should be greater than or equals to 0. If it is greater than or equal to 0, which means the index is there. Yes or no? The index of that element is there. If it is less than 0, there is not there. The element is not there. Can you have an element that is 0th index? Of course. So that's why I'm saying greater than or equals to 0, the condition you have to check for. Any questions here up to now? And of course I am done. So any other thing that are left over? I think add off. Add off is also done, but the thing is this one, public void add off int index comma e item. This is also required, right? And the count, the other one is the count. Okay, we'll finish off this and we'll go there. So now, that is not there, but it's not there in the given assignment. Yes, so we have to write it, right? I don't know how the test cases are going to be. So if you want me to check, I'll check.
There is no test case. Added to test case.
We'll see. Hold on. So there are 6 test cases. Oh, what happened? Okay, so there is no add method here. Add all. There is no add. Add all only. Add all. No add. No add. And nothing. So don't worry. So this may not be required. But if you want, how you are going to write it? Adding an element at a particular index, right? Index the element to be inserted at this index returns nothing. Oh, sorry, item to be inserted in the list. Yeah. And nothing more else, right? So now what you have to do, let us assume like yesterday we did 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 0 0, right? And index equals to 2 and item equals to 9, say for example. And how the list is going to be now? So this is the actual list, right? This is your list. Now what is the index? 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and that's it, right? These are the indices and these are the elements in the list. Yes or no? So say for example where you want to add the item, index 2, so which means this one. Yes You have to insert that element. Now what do you have to do in order to insert there?
First we have
Directly keep the element there? No. So what to do?
we need to iterate to next.
I mean to say there are two versions here. One is directly overriding the element or adding an element at an index. So here I'm not trying to override the element. I want to
Add the
create a space there, add the element there. So how to create a space there?
First
Push all the elements to the right by one. From the last to the, so which means I have to keep
the size.
8 here. I have to keep 7 here. And goes on. So from where I'm starting?
Size.
Int I equals to size,
less
I greater than index, I minus minus, and then
I
list of I equals to list of I minus 1. And then list of index equals to item and increase the size by 1. So all those elements are going to change now. So this is going to be 6, this is going to be 5, this is going to be 4, this is going to be 3. And now it stops because I am saying I is now 2, 2 greater than 2, which is false. Index is 2 now, I is 2 now. So 2 greater than 2, which is false. Now it stops there and it comes out. What is the index value? 2. List of index equals to item. What is the item? 9. So insert 9 there. And now the affected list is going to be like this. Which was? Got it? Kishore, understood? Prasad, Gautam, are you able to follow? Yeah. The same story, of course, we discussed yesterday, but in detail. So I'll keep this in a comment so you can refer it later if you want. Yeah. What is the next one? Count, right? Public int count or e count. Which one is the better one? Count in the sense. First of all, tell me what do you mean by count? How many number of times the element occurred in the array or a list. Okay. So what is the parameter? It should be item because I want to count the item element, nothing but. Okay. So what do you have to return? The number of times. The number of times in the sense you're saying only the number, so it is going to be an int, right? Count the number of occurrences of the item in the list. Param item to be counted. Description return. Returns the number of occurrences of the item. Okay. Now how you are going to write this? For, of course, something like a get, right, or something like contains, yes or no? So it is also something like this. I plus plus. Now what do you have to do? If list of I equals to item, then count equals to count plus plus. Up plus equals to, that's anything is okay. So finally return the count. Yes or no? So int count equals to 0. Int count equals to 0. I think we have written it, no? Remove, get. Oh, we didn't write it. So just a minute. Hello, sir. Sir, class में sir. Okay. 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 Load హరి అడగాలి సార్ అయితే ఒకసారి నేను యాక్చువల్లీ రికార్డెడ్ సెషన్లో ఉన్నాను సార్ Class record అవుతుందన్నమాట. Yeah. Okay. So we didn't write it count. So
So we can write enhanced for loop also.
enhance for loop. Yes, of course. You can write it. So how we are going to write the enhance for loop?
For E
Good
element
idea. For
of E element
E element, not int element, because
is in list.
element colon list
If
and if
element is equal to item,
items,
count equal plus one.
then count plus plus. Both are the same. Yeah, both are the same. So shall I keep both? You'll get the double the count. That's it, nothing more, right? Yes or no? So you have to command it. So we'll keep the enhance for loop here. But is this okay? Element equals to item. Dot equals, right? Why? Because you're having the objects. So whenever you have the objects, you should not compare the references. You have to compare the values available in those objects, right? So for that, what do you have to say?
Item
Dot equals of item.
It is item dot
Element dot equals of item, or item dot equals of element. Both are the same. There is no difference, I feel. Okay. Any questions up to now? I think we are done. So let's run the test cases. Do you have the test cases with you? Yes. I don't have a main method. So what should I do? Do I need to write it?
Say we have main and another.
Oh, they have already provided the main. Huh? So where is that? Solution.java. Okay. Why student is required here? Is this the right one or a wrong one? Why student is required in the solution.java?
We are asking students.
It seems that they also might use the student objects also. That we don't know. But let's try to understand whether they have written. Oh, there is an S type, I type. What are all these? Let's try to understand. Okay, whenever you run the solution, it starts from the main. The execution starts from the main. So what they are trying to do here? They have created an object for scanner, which is nothing but an stdn. And what is the next line? What is the next line? Object type. So now they are taking the object type. So the first line of the input file contains an object here. Object type. So let's go and find out with one of the test case. So we have a test case here. So close it. Oh no. Delete. Now what is the top object type here? D. What do you mean by D? Might be double. Might be double. Yes. And if you see the values, it's 1212.2, 9.01, etc. Right? So which means they are double values. Try to understand in that way, okay? Of course, we don't have. So the first line of the input contains. If you see this, what is the type here? C, which means character. By looking at it, S or student. Which one is correct? String or a student? String. But how the student can be represented? Do we know that? No, right? I think we'll look at the might be fifth test case. What they're saying? F. Are you able to see? Okay. Don't worry. That's an F, which is nothing but float. So these are all the float values. So almost I think one more test case or two more test cases we have. So input 6. O. O is nothing but object. So we don't have any data type which contains an O, which starts with an O. So it's nothing but object. Of course, if you see Manjuna, Arun, Praveen, and Rahana, Rajesh, Deepak, Murthy, Mansa, they're all the names, assuming that they're all the student names. Okay, they have given it something like this. I can also treat this as a string object, right? Because there are no other details provided. Yes or no? So there might be a little bit confusion, but there are some more commands where we can try to understand from that. Okay. Now see, S, line number 37, S. So this case will be executed for string type. Okay. So that's clear. Next, what do we have? I, case I. This case will be executed for integer type list. What about this? This case will be executed for float type. What about this? Character type. What about this? Double type list, right? What is the other one? Oh, this case will be executed for student type list. That is to store list of student objects. So whatever the input file contains O, that is going to be a student object. Okay. Now, why they have written this much of what do you call lengthy main method? Let's try to understand. So for each of the object type, we have to call the operations based on that. Yes or no? For string, we have to call as usual. There is no change in it. I think so. I mean to say, nothing nothing conversions required and etc. But for integer, what they are trying to do here? Of course, whenever you split based on space, observe line number 90. Whenever you split based on space, or whatever the string that is, if you split based on space, you'll get all the strings. But what is the type they are handling it? Integer type, right? Integer type. So for that, all the parameters that you have to pass is in the format of like integers. So you have to convert it to integers, which means whenever you split based on space, all the values are going to be in the form of strings. All the values are going to be in the form of strings. So what are the values that you have? Something like add. So for add, what parameter that you have to pass? Int or integer. So that's why you have to typecast to integer. And add all, if you take. Add all in the sense, all the values are all, say for example here tokens of one dot split of comma. What do you mean by this? You're splitting based on comma so that you'll get all the values. All the values that you have to pass as a parameter of int array. Because add all takes integer array. Yes or no? For integer type, I'm trying to say that. Understood or not? Yeah. So for string, it is going to be strings. For floats, you have to typecast it to float dot parse float. So we'll also see that. Observe line number 145. List float dot add off float dot parse float off. Even for the add all method also, of course. For the add all method, what they're trying to do? Okay, parse float of t1 of I. What are the values that have been split based on comma? All those values will be as strings. Now they are trying to convert to float. So in order to convert string to float, what do you have to say? Float dot parse float. Okay, Gautam, are you able to follow? Okay, Manoj. The next one. So at the same time, how you need to create an object is a big thing, right? So this is a way of creating an object. For float, list in the angular brackets, I mean to say in the less than and in the less than and greater than, you have to specify float. So here also it's better you specify so that it will be clear. That's a syntax actually. Don't miss it. It's better you write it. Understood? So this is a float type. So if you want to see the integer type, so this is going to be the integer type. This is a way that you have to create an object for. Yes or no? Any questions up to now? So for string, we have to create an object of type string in this format. Of course, these are all these cases are nothing but likewise you have seen in list editing in the main method. So they're all the same, but you have to typecast it to the respective data type and then send it. That's it. Okay, so this is a character, and if you observe carefully, all the characters have been taken as, whenever you split based on comma, all the strings all the things are going to be in the string format. So whenever you specifically talks about a character from the string, you have to take the 0th character, so that represents the character. So I'll show you, hold on then, if you have a confusion here. So see here, add all of, how they are going to specify is a comma b comma c comma d comma e, are all these characters or strings characters. But whenever you split based on space, assume that this is line. Okay, what do you get? Tokens of equals to line dot split of space. What do you mean by that? So whenever you split based on space, if you take this as a line, what do you get? How many parameters you will get? 2. So line of 0 contains, I'm explaining it clearly. Line of 0 contains add all. Line of 1 contains A, B, C, D, E. Yes or no? Now I have to split line of 1 now in order to get all the characters. So now again, what I can say, chars equals to, it's an array, right? Chars equals to line, token of 1 dot split of comma. So at this time, what do you get? So this is not chars, strs, because whenever you split based on comma, you'll get all the strings, not the characters. Now take each and every string and get the first character. So it is going to be the character again. Okay, so for char c colon strs, what do you have to say? Oh, it's not char, it's a string. Yes. Okay, so s dot caret of 0 indicates, what do you mean by this? Tokens of one dot split. So what do you get? Tokens of 1 dot split. You will get A, B, A, B, C. Oh, what happened? A, B, C, D, E. So these are all the strings that you will get. So there are 5 strings in the add all method. Yes or no? Now s dot caret of 0 in the sense, what is s here? The first A. So that is treated as a string. So string dot caret of 0, which means you'll get A as a form of character, in the form of character. Now take the second string. What is the second string? B. B dot caret of 0. You'll get B only. The next one, C. C is a string because whenever you split based on comma, you'll get strings, not characters. That's what I'm trying to say. Whenever you have a string and whenever you're trying to deal with characters, you have to specify token dot caret of 0. You'll get the character. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Done? So do I need to remove this or not required? Not required. So that's what they are saying here. T1 of I. T1 of I is nothing but what? This one. All the strings split based on comma. And T1 dot caret of I in the sense, T1 of I dot caret of 0 in the sense is going to be something like string dot caret of. And passing all the temp. Temp is nothing but a character array. And passing the temp to the add all method. It's very similar here, nothing more. If you try to keenly observe, you'll get all the things. Okay, and for D, double, it's the same. But in order to convert the string to a double, what do you have to use? double dot parse double. For float, float dot parse float. For int, yes. For character, string dot caret off. That's all we have discussed so far, right? Okay. For object, nothing. So we'll see. We'll see clearly for object. This is important. So this will be executed for student type list. So we are talking about the students now. So how he has created a student list object? List student equals to, sorry, list student list. Okay, I'll try to list student equals to new list of. Yes or no? New list of. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yeah. So now what they are trying to say, list student dot add of new student of tokens of 1. What do you mean by tokens of 1? Shall we see the test case? So this one, right? So add all of what they have given. Add all of 3 names. Okay, let us assume, say for example, ABC or Manjula, Dharan, Praveen. So where is the add all? Here only, right? So what we have to try to do is here, see carefully. Tokens dot length equals to 2. What do you mean by that? Tokens dot length equals to 2. Whenever you split based on space, you'll get 2 parameters. One is, sorry, you'll get 2 values. One is, according to the test case, I mean to say. One is add all, and the other one is Manjunath, Praveen, Arun. That's what you'll get, right? So we'll write it here. Add all of, okay, I want to try to copy paste it. I don't want to waste the time. So whenever you split based on space, then you'll get add all, and the other one is this one. Now what you're trying to do? So this is tokens of 0 and this is tokens of 1. This is tokens of 1 and this is tokens of 0. So tokens of 0 already matched with add all. Now it comes in. Tokens of 1 dot split of comma. Now we know clearly that all these values are split based on comma. Now what we'll get? So these are all the values that we'll get in T1. In T1. Okay, now see. Now student of temp equals to what he's saying. Now what is a parameter for add all? What is the parameter for add all? Array of elements, right? Element array. So now as O is dealing with student object, so we all have to pass student objects to the add all method. Agree or not? So we have to pass student objects, which is nothing but an array, student array. So we have to pass the student array to the add all method. Then only it accepts. Otherwise, input mismatch or parameter mismatch. Yes or no? So in order to create a student array, what is trying to do? Oh, not that one. This one. This one. Student of temp equals to new student of T1 dot length. T1 dot length is nothing but the 3. Okay. So for int I equals to 0, I less than T1 dot length I plus. Now temp of I. Now you have created an array temp which is of type student array. You have created a temp which is of type student array, and it can hold up to how many? It depends on T1 dot length. So here in this case it is 3. So it's clear. So you have created an array. Again you have to create an array for each and every element in the student array. Why is it required? Because it's a student array which is nothing but an object. So it contains all the null values. But for integers, what are all the values that you have whenever you create an array? When you create an array, what are all the values that are inside the array? Integers, which means initially. What are the initial values of the array? Zeros. According to the student array, nulls. So can you process with null? No. Can you process with null? No. So you have to keep an object there. Then only you can say array of student array of 0 contains a student object. Student array of 1 contains the other student object. Yes, no? Okay, so student temp equals to new student of t1 dot length, which is going to be 3. And then if you observe carefully, what does this mean? Temp of I equals to new student of t1 of I. What do you mean by t1 of I? What are all the values of t1? They are 307, 789. So Manjunath around Travan. Okay, 3 values. So I'm passing a string to the student object. So whenever you say like this, then a parameterized constructor of the student object will be invoked by default. So go to the student object now. Is that agreed? All of you? Manoj, not Manoj, Gautam, Prasad. So whenever you say new student of, the parameter should be string because you have a constructor with a string type. So new student of, then automatically this is going to be executed. Public student of string name. So what are all the attributes of this student class here? What are the attributes of the student class here? Only the name, nothing more else. Okay. So the constructor contains only the name here. So this dot name equals to name. So what is the name value here for the first time? That's what. According to the values that we have, what is the first Manjunath sir, right? Okay. So this dot name is assigned to name. Okay. Now go down. And I'll create all the student objects and I'll keep that in the temp and I'll pass a temp object to the temp array to the add all method. Is that clear? So this is the way that you have to handle student arrays, student objects in the array. Any questions up to now? No? Sure? Kishore? Questions are there? No questions, okay. So can I remove this? Now, contains. If you see one more method, there is a method called contains of MSID. This is a very much important thing that you have to know. So see here, one more time. Contains of list student dot contains of new student of tokens of I. Why they have created one more student element here, student object here? Can you answer this? If you answer this, I came to know that you all know the subject or you have followed my session.
Because the parameter which we are sending
is an element. So here in this case it's a student. Very good. Awesome. You have answered. But how many of you know this? If it is an integer, you'll pass only the integer. If it is a character, you'll pass character. If it is a string, you'll pass string for contains because you have to check how many number of times or whether it is there in the list object or not or list entity or not. So here it is a student. We are talking about the student, so you have to pass a student object. Then only it works. Otherwise, no. Okay, got it or not? So new student of tokens of 1. New student of tokens of 1. So what is tokens of 1? The name. Here, say for example, contains of MSID. So contains is tokens of 0, MSID is tokens of 1. So now I have to create MSID with a student object and I have to pass a student object to the where? Contains method. So what we are trying to do in the contains method? So we are saying index of item greater than equals to 0. Index of item greater than equals to 0. So again I am calling one more method which is nothing but index. So it comes here. Now what I am trying to do here, item. So here item is nothing but no. Item is nothing but it's not MSID. It's a student object. MSID is not the MSID is only the name. MSID is stored in name attribute of the student object. That's it. Okay, but we got, see here, what we are trying to pass here, new student of, oh, I think you don't know about this, might be. So, new student of something is nothing but a nameless object. Is nothing but a nameless object. Does it have any name? I mean to say, generally, how do you, in order to create a student object?
We give a name and then we'll send that.
Student st equals to new student of. Yes or no? Now, what is the object name here? st. Okay. Now, say for example, if you pass directly like this, new student of tokens of I, we are just creating an object and sending it. I'm not giving any name for that. So it's a nameless object. Okay. So now, what is the parameter for this contains method now? According to the, if the list is of type student, object. Again, someone is saying that MSID. Student object. Okay, good. So I'll remove this. Or if you have a confusion, you just say tokens of 1 and pass st. Okay. So where it is ending and done. That's it. This is also correct. That's not a problem. You can do either ways. Right? So whenever it comes to the index of method, now of course, now what is item? Item referring to that object, a student object. Student object. Okay, now good. So in the student, in the contents, I'm calling index of item greater than or equals to 0. So again, I'm calling one more method. So what is item in the index of student object? So student object dot equals of list of I. What do you mean by that?
Whether it was there in the list of student list, whether it is
Yes. So item dot equals of list of I in the sense list of I contains the other objects. Like say for example Manjunath, Arun, Praveen, or Rehana, Mansa, Deepak, Murthy, and etc. Rajesh. So those are all the values. Those are all the objects of type students. Now can you directly compare two objects with equals? Obviously no. Obviously no. Because this is our own type. Student is our own type. So go to the student class and you have to override the method called equals. So this is the way that you have to override the method. Equals method. Now on what basis you compare two different objects or two objects of type student? Are you comparing based on name? Are you comparing based on marks? Are you comparing based on degree? Are you comparing based on mobile number or email ID or roll number? On what basis you are comparing it? So that you have to define it on your own. So if you want to define it on your own, you have to write the equals method on your own again in the student class itself. Understood, Manoj? So of course, student might have multiple attributes. Student might have multiple attributes. How can I and you are same? On what basis you are comparing? That is the important thing, right? So for that you have to write equals of method. I am saying here override. Overriding comes into the picture. What do you mean by override here? Time is getting up fast. Okay, I told you. Someone of you have asked about override earlier. Whenever I talk about polymorphism, overloading, right? So override is nothing but whenever you have a method in the parent class, and if you want to use the same method in your class which has been inherited from the parent, then at the time you have to say override. So now is the student class is inheriting from other class? You said no. Anyone of you say yes? I'll say yes.
No, it is inheriting the properties of the list class.
There is no list class here.
No, it is taking private.
I'm talking about the context here is only the student, not the list.
Every class object inherited like object class.
Every class is inherited from object class, even you write it there or not. So object class has an equals method. Okay, object class has an equals method. So you're inheriting the object class. So which means you have an equals method here. Now, if you want to override it, so write it and specify at override before the method. Okay, even though you write it or not, but if you don't write, compiler will throw a warning to you. If you don't want warnings, write it at override. So public boolean equals of object, other object, I'm trying to say. Okay, now this item dot equals of what I'm trying to say, list of I from index of method. Now see, item dot equals of list of I. What is item? Student object. What is list of I? Student object. So I'm passing two student objects and I'm comparing with equals. Now see what happens in the equals. So this is the other object. I mean, it is a list of I, which is nothing but how item comes here into the equals method. We have made a long discussion earlier, something like what is that? Point P1 comma P2. P1 dot distance of P2. It is also the same, right? Yes or no? Item dot equals of list of I. Item is student object. List of I is nothing but the student objects available in the list. Item is I'm passing it. So you have to compare these two. So this is something like that, right? So in order to, so how can I refer item in this class now? Sorry, in this equals of method. Okay, hold on. List of I. Okay, I'll copy this statement. I'll keep it here so that you will get clarity. Okay, now tell me. Item dot equals of list of I. So equals is this method. Agreed? Now list of I comes to other. Is it agreed? Okay. Actually, list of I contains student, but I'm taking it as an object here. Okay, it automatically converts because student is inheriting from object. So it takes it. That's not a problem at all. Okay. Now item, how I'm going to refer this item? How I'm going to get this item here in this class, in this method especially?
You're taking another student.
No. Other is that. What about item? Other, that is nothing but list of I. P1 dot distance of P2 annappudu, how you are referring P1 in the distance method? No.
Object.
Object, what do you mean by object there? Of course I know P1 and P2 are objects. P1 dot distance of P2. P2 I know by default. I'll refer P2 dot X, P2 dot Y. How I refer this X and Y from P1?
We're taking that as an object. It is a point object.
I know it's a point object, but how we are referring it in the distance method? Exactly, this dot X, that's what you have to say. Here item also refers as this. Yes or no? How do you forget that point? I've discussed so much of time there. Oh my god. Okay. Got it or not now? Understood? Are you all on the same page? Okay. So now item refers to this. So that's why I'm saying this. Dot get name. So get name by default returns name. Yes or no? Now see here. List of I they are saying. So which is nothing but other. Now I'm checking whether other is of type student or not. Of course I can pass any kind of object to this other, right? So I'm checking whether other is a type of student or not. If it is a student type, I'm okay with it. Otherwise I'm returning false. Now see here. Now I'm converting other. Of course, what is the type of other in this equals method? What is the type of other in this method? Object. So I have to convert to student. Typecast it to student. Typecast it to student. So that I am calling it as that. So now this dot get name of dot equals of that dot get name. That is referring to other, and this is referring to item. This is referring to item. Yeah, this much of story you have to build whenever you try to write overrunning methods or something else, right? Okay, good, nice. Are we done? And this is all about the contents. Okay, so okay, we'll remove this statement. We'll take a couple of minutes. We'll try to run the eval. So where is this? So assignment 1 from module 10.
So you can directly open the terminal from that.
How can I open?
Go to that folder, sir. That folder name.
Hmm.
Right click. Down new terminal at folder. Last option.
Oh, good, nice, thanks. Earlier I didn't see that option. Okay. Slash eval. What is the solution.java? Perfect. If any errors, we'll look after 5 o'clock. But for the index. Okay, we'll look after 5 o'clock.
It is IDX.
IDX, huh? Why IDX?
IDX. Always change that name as IM.
List.java 133, right?
In the parameter is IDX and we have given IDX. There you give IDX. In the parameter.
Wow, the names.
So there I have changed.
That's okay.
Equals of. Sir, in parameter only.
We can do that still. Not a problem. 3 out of 6 test cases passed. So we might have some logical errors. We'll fix it at 5 o'clock.
What is that?
Check style.